Hello, it's 9 p.m. After this time to English New Edition. For tonight's headlines, we have the National Consultation Workshop for the Implementation of Quality Education for Refugees. Distribution of 200-liter plastic barrels for water storage to households in Sankal. For the international scene, Seoul and Washington begin their annual military exercises. Welcome to our newsroom. IGAD, in collaboration with the German corporation through GIZ and the government of Djibouti, Ministry of Education, organized a two-day consultation meeting on the Djibouti National Education Response Plan for the implementation of the Djibouti Declarations on Education for Refugees, Returnees, and Host Communities. The meeting took place at the Sunny Hill Center in the Artas region. Dr. Kebede Tesgaye, IGAD Director General, recalled that the IGAD has been mandated to support the development and implementation of multi-years costed national education intervention plans to ensure inclusive education for refugees, IDPs, and returnees, as well as host communities. Accordingly, IGAD has been working with the member state and partners to develop costed plans. It was agreed on the next steps in terms of effective implementation of the Djibouti costed plans to accelerate inclusive access to quality education for refugees, returnees, and host community.
Declaration, we call it the Costed National Education Response Plan. For the effective implementation of the Djibouti Declaration. Many of you may know the Djibouti Declaration was adopted in December 2017 in Djibouti, and over the last 5 years, IGAD, its partners, and the member states have been implementing the different key priorities of the Djibouti Declaration. And we are very grateful for the government and the people of Djibouti, both for taking the lead in the adoption of the Djibouti Declaration 5 years ago, and also in preparing the national costed plan for successful implementation of that piece of commitment, especially, as His Excellency earlier said, the integration of refugee education into the national education system.
For his part, the prefect of the Artas region and the president of the regional council have indicated that for IGAD assisted member states in developing and implementing costed plans for national education response plan for the implementation of the Djibouti Declaration. The Djibouti Declaration amplifies the need to accelerate the inclusive of refugees in national education system and to ensure that no one is left behind in terms of access to education, skills development, and capacity building in 2017. For his part, the participant of this workshop said that IGAD member state jointly signed the Djibouti Declaration, in which, among other areas of action, is the development of a regional framework certification framework was identified as one of its 5 strategic interventions. IGAD's regional intervention in education are informed by the Global Compact on Refugees and the Global Compact on Migration. The agents of the National Laboratory of Food Analysis, known LANA, proceeded today in the late morning to the seizure of a mineral water manufacturing warehouse. It is a water distillery with all the materials from the bottles to the stoppers, all imported from Yemen. The agents searched this warehouse following an intelligence work and carried out campaigns of control of the means of transport of goods. This operation of seizures of the agents of LANA in collaboration with the National Gendarmerie was made in the framework of the fight against smuggling and control of distribution canals. And we are going to Sankal in the Dakhel region to talk about the distributions within the framework of the movement of the nomadic population displaced by the recurrent drought in the Dakhel region. In response to this situation, the CRD and UNICEF have jointly initiated an emergency WASH project after conducting a multi-sectoral assessment and taking into account the priorities of these populations affected in the WASH sector. For the implementation of the emergency WASH project, the Djibouti Red Crescent has carried out today the distribution of 200-liter plastic drums to improve the conditions of water storage for the benefit of the household of Sankal. In addition to the awareness sessions on hygiene promotion and demonstration on water treatment, the sessions were chaired by the volunteers from the Dakhel branch, presided over by the branch coordinator. In addition, as planned, this emergency project involved the construction of 37 emergency latrines on the two sides of displaced persons, namely 18 in Sankal and 19 in Bakere, consisting of 2 blocks, and women is the water supplies. It is expected that the water supplies will be extended to 500 meters. In this magazine, we will make you discover the way of life of the refugees settled in the village of Ali Ade in the regions of Ali Sabir in the camp Markazi in Obok. These vulnerable people fleeing the horror of war in neighboring countries have found refuge in our country, the Republic of Djibouti. Every year at these times, refugees are the focus of attention. Public authorities and international organizations, as well as civil society, the international community as a whole, celebrate, they defend the cause of these people who have lost everything for various reasons. So we started our report in the villages, in the refugee villages of Ali Ade, where 60,000 refugees from countries such as Ethiopia, Somalia, and Eritrea have settled. All of them have found refuge in the haven of peace that is Djibouti. Despite its limited resources, Djibouti hosts these refugees from these countries who have really lost everything and are taken care of by state entities called UNARSA. They work in close collaboration with the United Nations High Commissioners for Refugees, UNHCR. The refugees benefit from basic social services such as schooling, health care, water access, and to solar energy. According to the chief of camp, Ali Ade, represent UNARSA, and I am at the services of the refugees day and night. We are supported by several partners, including UNHCR, World Food Programme, Norway Refugee Council, and many others to help these vulnerable people who have fled their countries because of insecurity. The refugees spoke through their representative. The main messages was to thank the head of state, Ismail Omar Guelleh, and his government for allowing the refugee to benefit from basic social services. Was an Ethiopian pilot. I fled my countries in 1991 following a communal war where I lost everything. Thank God I was welcomed in the Republic of Djibouti. Since that date, I and my family benefit from basic social services such as a school for my children, where I myself am a math teacher, mathematics teachers, and the health services, the integrations of the refugees in the social fabric, the cohesion and fraternity with the Djiboutian, and especially the attentions and the compassion of every day moved so much the refugees who were confused in recognitions and thanks. As these mothers who fled the horror of war in Somalia tell us, I am a woman and a housewife. I lost what I have in 1991 and in the war and its atrocity. And Djibouti opened its door to us. I can only be proud and grateful to these countries. I also thank ONARS and its partners like UNHCR for their constant and emphatic support to make our life decent. The President committed the countries to the resolutions of the Comprehensive Refugee Framework of Actions at the New York Summit in September 2016. After Ali Ade, we headed to Obok, 235 kilometers from Djibouti City. This region is in the northeast of the country, is home to the second largest refugee camp in the world, Markazi. Despite its limited resources, the region has been confronted since the march and the flaying of war. Welcoming on its soil the Yemeni refugees, these refugees have been installed in the Markazi camp, which was built on 4 kilometers from Obok city and has a capacity of more than 5,000 people. Indeed, with the recent rains, the weather is getting milder, so the vacationers are back, and we have produced a magazine on this subject. Listen for more detail.
Recent rains, the climate in Djibouti has softened and the temperature have dropped considerably. The hot summer has given way to milder weather for Djiboutians. With these new climate facts, holiday makers are thinking of returning to the country. The returns of the holiday makers has started as has been simplified day by day. This is evidenced by the flow of holiday makers that an RTD team observed at the Loya Ade border. On their return to the border, holiday makers are subject to a process which consists of the COVID-19 test carried out by the agents of the hygiene service, which takes care of the holiday makers, gather them under the same tent and distribute masks to them in order to protect them. Before being able to pass the COVID test, another step is necessary, and it is none other than the verifications of identities of travelers and their registrations in the register of the entry into the country. An operation of the capital important since it is part of the security of the country, and this operation is professionally carried out by the military station at the Loya Ade border post. The travelers, once arrive at this stage, present his travel's document, which will be checked and recorded as the security measures. All travelers are subject to a compulsory baggage check by the customs service under the supervision of the military at the border post of Loya Ade to check the prohibited goods before being met at the premises of migration police. His men encourages of and determined confirm the uniforms work for the good of the country, have not schemed on their effort and continue to serve the nations brilliantly. The agents of the hygiene service said the COVID tests are carried out on a site and the response is immediate, whereas previously its people were confined to premises provide for this purpose. May today ended the long hours of waiting for answer for the hygiene service, and this thanks to the assistance of Ministries of Health, which has used all the means necessary to obtain the rapid tests for COVID-19 and thus facilitate the return of Djibouti holiday makers. Holiday makers who moreover take a long journey through sandy track and difficult mountain to cross the whole journey, quite complicated and exhausting in the eyes of holiday makers, but rather than easy for the drivers of their vehicles, which makes the non-stop titles between Djibouti and Somaliland during the summer period. And the travelers of Djibouti to Somaliland during this heat wave period in Djibouti makes the happiness of these drivers who sees their income boosted. To find out a bit more about the pet taking and the obstacles that they faced during this rainy period, we approached some of its drivers. He said, back to the Djiboutian vacationaries after their passage of Loya at the border military post. It is the turn of the border and immigration police to welcome its vacationers to their premises. On site, a team of dynamic and remarkable young borders and immigration police officials are engaged and developed to receive and best service Djibouti holiday makers returning from Somaliland. In the visa room, the atmosphere is tired and exhausted. On the way back, his travelers they take turns in order to register and return to their homes. Borders and immigration police officials are hired at the work of facilitate the registrations procedures for its travelers. But all this operation is supervised and carefully mentioned by one man. It is Lieutenant Yassin Ahmed Idris, responsible for the borders post and immigration of the National Police in Loya Adda border, a dynamic, humble and wise manager on whom the whole of this operation is based. Lieutenant Yassin Ahmed Idris, responsible for the border post and immigration of the National Police in Loya Adda, is known for his firmness in always enforcing the letters of the immigration laws in force of the Republic of Djibouti. He uses all the means necessary to facilitate the procedures for vacationers who return to their country in the vacation months and who are going through a rather difficult journey. Last step for vacation returning to the country, he said, and the search of control of luggage by very customs officials who leave nothing to chance and the smallest details. He goes through all the travelers' suitcases with a fine-tooth comb that check prohibits goods and any product or materials illegally hiding in their luggage. Audit, search, and control have a single objective, that is to fight against the good or illicit product that concern.
For the international scene, Seoul and Washington begin annual military exercise. The Republic of Korea and the United States began their annual military exercise Monday, including the largest scale file exercise that had been suspended. Washington is a close security ally of Seoul. Some 28,500 American troops are stationed in South Korea to protect it from its nuclear-armed neighbor. The two countries have long conducted joint military exercises that they insist are defensive, while North Korea sees them as a rehearsal for an invasion. The Yuliki Freedom Child exercise. The South Koreans they set back the Pyongyang prior to the Yushi Freedom Child exercise. The two allies conducted a preliminary exercise last week to rehearse procedure for responding to the pre-conflict crisis scenario. In devastating floods in Sudan, Afghanistan, and India, flooding continues in Sudan, with the levels in the Nile and at Bara rivers rising since July. Eyewitnesses reported to the Sudanese public broadcasters that more than 300 homes have been completely destroyed, in addition to the destructions of hundreds of farms due to flooding in East Darfur state. The floods have reportedly overtaken 4 neighborhoods in the town of Abu Matariq, according to an August 13 report by the Sudanese National Council for Civil Defense. 52 Sudanese have been killed and 25 injured by the floods and heavy rains since May. Numbers remain unknown for many areas in northern and eastern Sudan. In Asia, Afghanistan and India are also not spared from heavy rains. Afghanistan is again affected by heavy flooding due to the seasonal rains. And the fire in Europe, already more than 700,000 hectares gone up in smoke. The year 2022 is about to break records for fires in the European Union. More than 700,000 hectares of forest have already gone up in flames since the beginning of the year, according to the data from the European Forest Fires Information System. This is one of the worst results since the creation of these services in 2006. As of August 18, exactly 771,547 hectares have been burned since January 1st. According to the latest data, this is about the same areas as Switzerland. Belgium, combined with Spain, is the hardest hit countries with more than 283,000 hectares that have been ravaged by the fires, according to the European Forest Fire Information System. This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.